in the old style, but you've caused me enough trouble.
Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about the in-game story of the first Ninja Turtles Nintendo game. There's a lot of cool plot elements throughout it that maybe you never caught back in the day, or maybe this is all completely new to you. So I kind of want to break down the story of the plot of some of these old games, and today I want to start with that first NES video game. But before we get started, remember to hit that subscribe button to catch more turtles in your life. Alright everybody, grab your controllers and dive into the sewers, because we're going to take a look at what happened in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles NES game. Let's talk a little bit about the game itself before we get to the plot. The game came out in 1989 for the NES. This is the game, at least from my personal experience, that for those who had never read the comics, it really spread the word that the Turtles in the comics wore all red bandanas, an interesting detail about the Turtles' origin that new fans, even today, are surprised to hear when they find out. The game did this by putting the second printing cover of issue 4 of the old Mirage comics as the art for the box of the game. It's interesting though because in the game, the Turtles wear their individual colors. Now, although the game being really difficult to beat, it did really well in sales, selling around 4 million copies, and was one of the best-selling NES games not made by Nintendo. There was even a Nintendo Ninja Turtles console bundle that was released as well back then.
Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles
Radical
are only on the Nintendo console. Nintendo, the world's #1 game system.
Now, the story in the game starts off with animation of the turtles transforming from pet turtles into their regular forms. They're all given their own title cards. Then we see the turtles with Splinter. Splinter points over to Shredder, who has April captured, and so we start off on our first mission, get April back. The manual of the game describes this, and it's actually pretty interesting what it says. It reads, "Only hours ago, their trusted friend April was kidnapped from her mobile news van by the vile, ruthless terrorist bully, Shredder. He's a slice-o-matic crumb, a villain more vicious than any army of mind-altered Bruce Lees. With their lovely cohort held hostage, the fearless foursome must concoct a way to rescue April before Shredder brainwashes her into joining his ninjutsu Foot Clan. They'll combine this treacherous task with the mission they've been on since their mutated beginnings to thrash Shredder and capture his life transformer gun, the lone piece of technology that can turn their rat friend Splinter back to the man he used to be." I assume they're following the 1987 cartoon storyline where Splinter is Hamato Yoshi. We end up in Greenwich Village to begin the search. We get messages from Splinter telling us how to read the map. This eventually gets us to Bebop and Rocksteady, who are holding April hostage. Bebop starts fighting one of the turtles. Eventually, when he is defeated, Rocksteady runs away with April. As we fight other villains throughout Greenwich, eventually we catch up with Rocksteady and defeat him. The turtles free April, but she tells them not to let the Foot Clan destroy the nearby dam. So the turtles head off. The turtles make it to the dam where they are told there is a series of bombs nearby. The turtles jump into the Hudson River and begin to disarm all the bombs underwater before the timer goes off and they all blow up. After the turtles disarm the bombs, April congratulates them and says, "Let's go home." As the turtles make it back home, they find that their lair has been trashed and torn apart. Splinter appears to have been kidnapped now. Then suddenly Shredder appears on the television. He tells the turtles he has taken Splinter, and to get him back, the turtles must defeat the Foot Clan. The turtles jump into the turtle van and drive to Wall Street in search of Master Splinter. They fight their way through several buildings of enemies, and eventually end up on a rooftop where Splinter is strung up on what looks like a crane, when out of nowhere, a Mecha Turtle attacks. The Mecha Turtle looks just like one of the Ninja Turtles, except he's more of a metallic color, although as you push him closer to defeat, he appears to change form. I believe we get a pretty good look at this form in the manual itself of the game. You can see that the Mecha Turtle has blades coming out of the end of his arm in this image. After he is defeated, Splinter is untied and is reunited with the Turtles. But then they see a helicopter quickly takes off not too far away, and Splinter orders his sons to go get the Turtle Blimp and follow the helicopter to locate Shredder's secret base within the city. The Turtles go to JFK Airport to get the blimp. They fight through a series of underground labyrinths with traps and eventually discover a giant mouser guarding the blimp. The giant mouser shoots lasers from its eyes and smaller mousers at them, but they eventually destroy it by blowing up its head. So then, finally, the Turtles reach the blimp and enter it one by one and take off after the Shredder. The sun sets. This allows the Turtles to sneak in through the shadows into Shredder's base, located in the South Bronx. The compound is patrolled by searchlights that alerts foot soldiers when something is detected. The Turtles go underground and find the Technodrome, and they battle it. Foot soldiers jump out of it, fighting the Turtles, but once the Turtles defeat them, they destroy the outside weapons. Then they pummel the large eye on top, causing it to explode, and it makes a hole in the Technodrome, which they jump into. Inside the Technodrome, the Turtles fight their way to the Shredder and eventually reach him. Shredder manifests into the room through an electric strike, which is quite the entrance. Anyways, the final battle begins. The Shredder tries to blast the Turtles with his life transformer gun that, described in the manual, says will transform a mutant back to its original form. In this case, the Ninja Turtles would just turn back into regular turtles. But the Turtles strike the Shredder so much that he eventually disintegrates into flames and is no more. After the battle, Splinter tells the Turtles that they have saved the world and that he can now turn back to human form, I assume using the life transformer gun. Then suddenly, Splinter, in front of the Turtles, demutates back into his human self. April says he's back to his real form and thanks the Turtles for their help. And so, the story of the Turtles in the 1989 NES video game Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles concludes. The game was ported in other platforms in 1990, including Commodore 64 and the Amiga. Apparently, the MS-DOS version of the game is infamous for its third level, which contains an impossible jump. The Nintendo version of the game received Nintendo Power's 1989 Game of the Year award. Although then and even now, the game is notorious for being a very difficult NES game. A fun fact about the Famicom version of the game, in the manual, it identifies April as the daughter of Splinter, an interesting change from any other story in the franchise. The game came out again in 2007 for the Wii Virtual Console, and apparently the price was a little bit higher for the game compared to other NES games that were released for the Virtual Console, probably due to the fact that it was a game that wasn't made by Nintendo but rather just released for the Nintendo back in the day. So I'm sure there's a licensing or rights thing that had to do with the higher price. Maybe one day we'll get a release like this again on the more current day Nintendo console, who knows? But yeah, that about does it for this one. I hope you enjoyed the breakdown. I'll be covering the second NES game soon, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game for the NES. So if you're new, hit subscribe so you don't miss out on that or any other stuff here on the channel. Thanks everybody for watching. Leave your comments down below. I will see you in a little bit with another video. Take care.